Welcome to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, here to share some amazing conversations. We're talking business, health, making and saving money, or starting something epic. Think of this as your go-to spot for stories that do a lot more than just kill time. They spark ideas, give you a boost, and perhaps even change the way you look at the world. I'm pulling in the experts, the thinkers, the doers, and the dreamers. We're about to dive into stories that open doors and ideas that light up your brain. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my guest, Liz Saunders. How are you today, Liz?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. Well, I am excited to have you on the show, and I'm thrilled that you're here to share your knowledge and this information with us today. Liz, you are the founder and owner of Fluencer Fruit, and you're, of course, going to tell us all about that. But I always love to have my guests share how this journey began. Like, where did you start and how are you now the owner and founder of Fluencer Fruit? And like, what happened in between?
Absolutely. So I previously owned my own company a couple years ago and have always had that kind of like entrepreneurial bug. And sometimes you get the question like, well, how did you become an entrepreneur? And I always to explain it as it's because I can't do anything else, right? Showing up and being an accountant would never work for my personality. I need something new and different every day. And listen, people who are accountants, I adore you because I don't know how I couldn't do it. It's just not in my skill set or my personality type. And so I used to own a company where I booked speaking contracts for speakers and then started down the Amazon space probably about 10 years ago, give or take, and started as an Amazon seller. I sold disposable rain ponchos for kids, which was kind of like, at the time, paid my mortgage, was very exciting, right? Stepping out from kind of like one market to another,
Mhm.
and then really got into e-commerce. Like a bunch of my friends had gotten into e-commerce and was like, this is awesome. And so at the time, like traveling, I was running my e-com business. And then I decided that I wanted something that was a little bit different because I had 3 small kids, and so being on the road was no longer working as, like, for our lifestyle, and so I reached out, to Jungle Scout and applied to work at Jungle Scout, which is one of the Amazon seller softwares for anybody who is unfamiliar. And so I went and worked at Jungle Scout for 6 years, and one of the things that I loved about that combination was I had a lot of autonomy. Jungle Scout really encourages that kind of like entrepreneurial spirit on the team. And so I was able to transition to something that different seasons of your life, you have different amounts of margin, right? And entrepreneurship and running your own thing takes a different type of mental focus than working on a team where you're helping determine the priorities, but you're not necessarily the only person like that is doing those sorts of things. And so it gave me like this really great balance of being able to have that autonomy, the entrepreneurship, and also have a team with a consistent paycheck. And then probably like almost a year and a half ago now, I started getting that itch again. My kids are a little bit older, and I had come across the Amazon influencer program through a friend who was also doing it. And as soon as I started doing influencer, I was like, why am I clicking in and out of every product listing again? Like, I haven't done that in years. We need a tool. We need a tool. I could do that. And it just kind of was like, from there, it was like, you can't shut off the ideas. I was like, oh, and then we've got an extension, and we could do these things. And then, oh, we probably need an agency to help sellers. And so it just, again, it was like, I thought it was going to be a side hustle. And I went to my boss and I was like, hey, I think this is gonna be a side hustle. This is what I'm doing. And then I was like onboarding people at 7 o'clock in the morning and 10:30 at night. And I was like, I think I need to go like do this. And so that's kind of like how I left Jungle Scout, started Fluencer Fruit, have been doing it full time for a little over a year now.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that journey with us. And I love that you talked about the kind of phases of our life. It's you had little kids, and so what you were doing wasn't really working for you. And
Yes.
how do we switch this up? Because I think a lot of times we get trapped in this idea of, well, this is what I've been doing, this is what I need to keep doing. I just
Mhm.
need to figure out how to make it work, instead of looking at what are my options
Yeah.
if I kind of look at this differently. How can I fit my family life and create something new? Or maybe, as you shared, you work for somebody else.
Yep.
And during that time of your life, that's what you do. But then, wow, you stumbled on this really great idea and then just said, okay, I've got to go full force with this. And so, for people who don't know what the Amazon influencer program is, why don't you share that with us and kind of explain what that means?
Absolutely. So the Amazon Influencer Program is specific to content that lives on Amazon. And I call that out because as soon as Amazon named it, influencer, of course, is a generic term that has 100 other preconceived ideas attached to it. And so most commonly, people are like, oh, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and all of those things exist for these content creators. But they have to then apply specifically to be in the program on Amazon. And you have probably seen these in your shopping experience, but when you go to a product listing and there's little videos or whatever of people talking about their experience with them, those are actually content creators who are creating what's called shoppable content for products that are on Amazon. And so the purpose of the program per Amazon is to help buyers make more confident buying decisions. So these are people that Amazon looked around and they were like, okay, we need maybe more than like your average customer filming 6 seconds on their phone in the dark talking about a product. But they didn't want to open it like necessarily, I think, broadly. So they put together this like section where you can apply to be in the program. You have to have been a content creator, but then you are creating reviews, unboxings. How does this look in my space? How does this fit a lot of fashion influencers, right? Hey, I'm 5'4", I'm wearing a medium, or this is how long it is. Those things that help when you're shopping online and you're like, how long did it take you to put together this bookshelf? Well, you feel a lot more confident if you watched somebody who already has it, put it together and talk you through it in a 2-minute, clip than if you're just buying stuff, right? And so that's like what the program is and kind of like where it sits, but you'll see it now. It's like the bell you can't unring. Like now that I've told you about it, all of your listeners are going to be like, "Oh, that's what those videos are. I get it. That's what they're doing there." So they're on almost every product listing. There's still some that don't have influencers, but it's definitely growing, which is really great.
Yeah. And something that I discovered as I was scrolling through Instagram, I began seeing ads kind of pop up from Amazon saying, do you want to apply for the influencer program? And so you may begin to see this in your own feed if you're on Instagram
Yep.
frequently, because they are kind of reaching out to everyday people to come on board and share their experiences with products. And so I love how you kind of detailed all that for us for a better understanding. But there's another program that they have that's a little bit different than the influencer, and that's the Amazon Associate. So
Yes.
tell us about that.
Absolutely. So associate is kind of like the big piece of this part of like content on Amazon. So associate is for people who are pushing traffic from their audience. So Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and they're like talking about products and pushing traffic to Amazon. And associates, people also commonly call them affiliates, right? They're people who have disclosures on their sites or whatever the case is. And when they push traffic from the audience that they've built somewhere, they get a 24-hour cookie, which means that anything you buy after you click through their link to Amazon, they get 24 hours of anything you put in their cart or until they click on the next cookied link, which, let's be honest, anymore takes probably 2 hours before they're into somebody else's cookie, right? So that's really the difference being like off-site content. So they're creating and posting content on their socials off of Amazon. Influencers in the Amazon influencer program specifically are creating content that lives on Amazon. So we very often inside this space refer to people as off-site content or on-site content, just meaning on-site lives literally on Amazon sites and off-site means it's on somebody else's platform. But that's the biggest difference.
Okay, yeah, that helps to kind of clarify that and make it simple to understand. And I understand also that they are, well, let's take a step back because Amazon influencers qualify for earning an income.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And so then how does that get paid? Who pays that? And are people really making money doing this?
Mm. Great questions. So the way that it works is I have a video where I'm showing you how to set up my 10 by 10 shade tent, which we have in our backyard. And if you were looking for a tent and you were like, oh, I found this, but you're like, like me, 5'4", not the 6'2" guy who just pops it up, right? Like, so I have in my title, I'm like, how I take this down and set it up in under 2 minutes by myself at 5'4". And you were like, oh, relatable. I need to watch that to see how she does this. You watch some part of my video. They have not told us how much time you have to watch in order for us to get credit. But you watch some part of my video and you decide that you're going to buy that tent. When you buy that tent, I make a 4% commission off of your sale, right? Now, I make commission off of one item as an influencer. Remember, the affiliates made that 24-hour cookie of everything in your cart. The difference in on-site content is I only get that one commission, but it's because I'm not driving any traffic, right? You found me on the listing as you were shopping. So that's where the money comes from. Now, if you're an Amazon seller, you're wondering like, am I paying that extra? Like, where is that money coming from? And don't worry, it's already happening without it because it comes out of that referral fee that you pay Amazon for every sale that you make anyways. So we're just like an added bonus for you. And the last part of your question was, are people really making money doing this? And the answer is yes, people do full-time content creation. I would say there are fewer people at the moment where their only source of income is Amazon influencer, specifically on site. Most content creators have multiple streams, but I do know people just specifically from shoppable videos doing $10,000 a month. It has gone up from that at the heights of the program. I'm not sure that exact person, like where they're at right now, but it is possible. It's volume and product selection. And at this moment, I would say, and also taking advantage of the ways that you can multiply that income with the same content.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And again, thank you for the detail on that, just to kind of get a general understanding of how it works and who's paying these commissions, and how do you make money. And so it leads me to another question, which is, you mentioned something about you earn a 4% commission, but is the rates different for different items?
Yes, great question. So the rates are different depending on the category. So, for example, furniture, outdoor stuff is 4%, which is basically our highest level. There are some things in like luxury beauty that hit 5%, but they're really difficult to find and not super common. Also, very expensive to buy, right? Like $200 makeup stuff, they're 5%. But then, like, clothing and baby items are between like 1.5 and 2.25% commission, which again goes back to, yeah, if you really want to make money, it's about product selection, right? And making sure that you're finding items that are going to be in those 4% categories and that cost a little bit more, right? Like even 4% of $20 is still 80 cents as opposed to 4% of $100 being $4, right? Like you're still making one sale each, but if you're going to pull 80 cents or $4, it all kind of like adds up.
Okay, that makes sense. And that kind of leads us into Fluencer Fruit, and kind of let's talk a bit more about how you established it and what the purpose of it is, because it ties into kind of what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. So, you know, entrepreneurs is find the need in the market. And I'm coming from the Amazon seller side of things, there's a bajillion tools, right? And so stepping into the content creator portion that overlaps with Amazon, there were no tools. So getting started, it was really kind of funny because the easy part is developing the software, right? Everybody's, oh, a software, like that's got to be, actually, you just tell the developers what you want. And yes, that's a different skill set because you have to be very exact. I actually have a pretty funny story. Like I sent developers like what I want, did mock-ups, all these things, very elementary mock-ups. I am not a designer. But to just tell you how exact you have to be, they sent it back to me. It was working. And I was like, great, how do people pay? And they were like, oh, you didn't say that you wanted people to pay. And I had just assumed, of course, I want people to pay, but I did not tell them. And so there is like this great learning curve, right? When you start doing these. But so the software, generally speaking, was not super difficult to lay out, put together with a team, work with them on the marketing and getting people to be aware of who you are and how you help them. is the hardest part of starting the business. And it was interesting because when I started, somebody recommended to me a branding company. They did websites, they did all these things. And I sent this company a banana that I had bought, right? And it's this one, right? And I was like, I'm wearing it on my sweatshirt. And I was like, listen, this is what I want to center it around because there's old Amazon lore about in the early days of Amazon, Jeff Bezos had banana carts in the Amazon headquarters. And so it's my nod back to the Amazon ecosystem. And so I sent it to him. I'm also a, late 90s, early 2000s marketer. I wanted alliteration, fluencer fruit. So I sent it to the branding company and they sent me back everything, right? They're like, here's your site, here's your fonts, it was amazing. But some of the best money that I spent. If you're starting something, the branding, because I've been around a little over a year now, and people who can't remember Fluencer Fruit, they're like, it's the influencer thing with the banana. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. I'm the bright yellow brand with bananas. And people remember that. And I think one of the biggest lessons I came out of starting, there's the software and the marketing agency, and they're branded the same, right? But out of starting was like, oh, the part that I thought was going to be hard was not the hard part. And then the part that I really was hesitant to invest in, which was the marketing, the branding, the like soft stuff, is the part that I get more comments on. People will be like, oh man, I love your site. Where did you get it? I love the banana. And it's not the part that I really thought was going to be the impact, but it has paid off in ways that like I can't even tangibly explain it yet. You know what I mean? Like it's been so significant in how it's grown. So that's like how I got started and grew the software piece of it into like where it's at right now, just like kind of from the back end.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And something that you said in there was really interesting, and that's we have this vision, but now we have to be able to communicate it to others so they can help us develop it. And then the point about the marketing and how do people find out about you? And this is the like number one question that entrepreneurs have, right? It's I've got this idea, I've got this software or this product or whatever service, and how do people find out about me? And it's like the challenge of every entrepreneur. Thank you for sharing this with us. And the idea of the branding, speaking to the audience. It's what gets people kind of going, what do they do? Let me look into them a little bit more. And super fun. Fluencer Fruit, cute, clever name. And I love the nod back to the history of Amazon in there too. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's dig into what it is that you do, what you offer to help Amazon sellers, influencers.
Absolutely. So as I got into the influencer space on Amazon, I think regardless of there's so many ways you can make money on Amazon, right? You've got KDP, you've got merch, you've got FBA or third party selling, you've got all these different things. And Amazon influencer followed a lot of the patterns from all the other kind of ways that you can make money. My very strong belief is that regardless of where you're at in the Amazon ecosystem, that it comes down to product research. So if you're a seller, you want products that sell really well, but have low competition, right? So not as many people selling, or something that you can make an improvement on. In the influencer space, it very quickly became obvious that there was similar patterns, right? It came down to product research. I want products that sell really well and are ranked really high, but don't have a lot of other influencer competition on the placements, because the fewer of us who are on there, the better chance you watch my video and I make the commission. And so I started kind of pulling together the data. So I pulled together data around basically what makes the biggest impact when you create a video. And so I created a custom score. It's a proprietary scoring system that grades the product listing 0 to 100 and gives you an idea. I tell people when you're getting started with product research, you want around a 70 or higher in the banana score. And that just tells you there are enough of those factors on the product listing that set your video up for success. And so that would include things for anybody really curious about like the nitty gritty, like having an upper carousel. So when you look at a product listing, in the very top section, there's images. If there's a video carousel there that you can click on, those are where influencer videos live. those videos do incredibly well. They do 8 times better, as a matter of fact, than listings that only have a lower carousel below the fold. So that's really tactical. But basically, if you think about visibility, the closer to the top, the more people are going to see you. The fewer competitors you have, the better your video is going to do. And so I scored the pages and made it so that when a content creator is trying to figure out like, oh, should I buy this mic stand or this mic stand? They can very quickly look at the search results and be like, this product listing is set up more for my success. They sell about the same, those sorts of things. So my goal is always to make people's time more efficient so that they can spend more time on their income producing activities, right? Searching for products is not making me money. Creating content for products is making me money. And so the whole point of the software is to make that faster and easier with as much data as you need to make that decision. And then the other piece of the software is in the back end. So we have what's called Creator Hub, and that's where we track like how many views we got, how much percentage of time people are watching our videos. And Fluencer Fruits extension creates some additional information for people there, like where are your videos placed? Are they in the upper carousel, the lower carousel, no carousel? If you find those no carousels, it's should I reshoot it? Should I change the title? Should I wait for it to pop back up because that's where the money is? And so Fluencer Fruit does a little bit there so that you don't have to manually click in and out of a listing to see how your video's placed. And so just some of those things that make people's life a little bit easier. We've got some stuff coming down the pipeline for this fall that's going to continue to make some integrations that are going to help people like move even faster, which is always my goal.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Liz, you're right. You don't want to be wasting your time searching through products to figure out which one is the best that I should be doing a video on. You want to be making the video, getting them posted, and moving on to the next product. And so the quicker you can find those products that are ideal, the faster you can get them up and moving.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's excellent. What a fantastic service that you're providing to people who are creating this content. So I love that. Good stuff. Helpful tools. I mean, we all love a helpful tool, no matter what it is, a software, something we need for our kitchen, whatever it is.
Yep.
They make our lives better. So this is phenomenal. Well, I want to ask you a question about, because you'd mentioned sellers on Amazon, they've got their products up, and are they looking for people to create content around their product? And how do maybe these content creators find them and vice versa?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually a problem that I'm working to solve right now, which is connecting the two sides. I kind of joke, I stand solidly on the Amazon influencer line in the ecosystem. And with the software, I'm serving the content creators and their processes. But then with the agency, I'm trying to help the sellers who are looking for these content creators. I'm trying to bridge the gap here. And so the first question was like, how do, are they looking for the content creators? For sure. And quite honestly, there's still a lot of education to be done in the space where I talk to even people who have been in the Amazon selling space for a long time who are unaware of the program, the influencer program, which means there's even more people who are unaware of how it helps the sellers. And so just really quickly, if you think about general statistics around UGC, which is user-generated content, we know that video now converts better than text, right? People want to watch, they don't want to read. We know that influencer content or UGC content converts better than brand videos. People want to see, how does it fit? They want to see other people's experiences. And so you've got these cascading pieces of the puzzle where it's, oh, we want video. It converts better. We want somebody who really has used our product talking about it. And so brands are seeing that and wanting to work with these content creators. There's a couple places you can find them. Like there's something on the back end of Amazon called Creator Connections that connects brands with content creators. There's a couple other agencies in the space, a couple other platforms. But really, I think one of the biggest things around people who are looking is they understand that the UGC helps. But for people who haven't started looking yet, I think it's important for them to know what's in it for me. So as a seller who has a product listing, that UGC is going to help convert traffic that you're already paying for. Everybody who sells on Amazon is paying for traffic. When you get it there, now the goal is to help convert more of that traffic that you're driving. And that's where the influencers come in with that UGC. But what we're seeing is I've done a couple case studies because we don't have a ton of good data because we have to kind of like, meaning Amazon's not giving it to us, right? There's not a spot on the back end of Amazon where they're like, oh, these videos convert at this rate for the seller and telling them, hey, this is what's happening. So we're working with sellers proactively to kind of pull these pieces together. But we've found that, like with different sellers, kind of all sizes, that when we drop influencer content, that UGC, onto their product listing, it does good things for their conversion rate. And then that kind of like kickstarts that flywheel on Amazon. So once you have a better conversion rate, you're selling more, but then also those organic keyword rankings that Amazon's algorithm pushes for where you land in search results also kicks up because your results are better. So then you have more traffic at the higher conversion rate with better sales. And it's just kind of like that flywheel. So it's a really interesting part of the Amazon ecosystem because it literally helps everyone. Amazon sells more, sellers sell more, buyers make more confident buying decisions, influencers make a commission. I mean, it's one of the only things that touches like every piece of the puzzle.
Oh gosh, yeah. Thank you for really going into the detail of that because it really, a lot of people don't have any idea
Yep.
about any of this and really are just going on to buy a product that they need, not
Yep.
knowing that all of this is kind of happening in the background. And so I think that this is excellent education for a regular consumer who can begin to understand what is happening all around. It's not for everybody. Some people
Yep.
just don't care. It's, I just need this product. I'm going to buy it and then I'm
Yes.
out. But then there's others who are curious about it and, see those videos,
Yep.
see the influencers, the content creators making videos and are making their decisions based on what that video says about the product and the experience and so on. And so that's good stuff for education purposes. And I love that you shared how it's kind of touching every part of the process
Yep.
for the seller, for the influencer, for the buyer. And so really that, as you demonstrated that sort of cycle.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that with
Yeah.
us. I want to ask you then, if somebody is thinking like, how do I begin to create this content, become an affiliate or become an influencer? How do I do that? Where do I even begin? What are your thoughts on how to do that?
Absolutely. So if you wanted to become an affiliate, honestly, that's probably the easiest approval to get because they're assuming you're going to push traffic from somewhere. So if you go and apply, really, if you Google apply for Amazon affiliate, it will take you directly to the page. The thing about affiliate or associate is that you have to have 3 sales within the first 6 months. And so those can't come from friends or family. They have to come from a site or a social media platform that you're pushing traffic from. It's not impossible or super hard to do, even if you're just getting started. Quite honestly, it just takes intentional work about building a community or an audience that you're going to promote products to. If you want to apply for the influencer program, there are 4 platforms that you can use to get approved, and they are Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. It has to be one of those 4. And Amazon does not give us like follower counts. They just say you have to have an engaged audience. So if you have an existing audience somewhere, I would go ahead and apply. There's no harm in applying for the influencer program. You can apply as many times as you want to get into the first step. If you don't get in, I would go back and work on your engagement. And if you're like, Liz, I love this idea, but I don't have any social media, go start a TikTok. It's the easiest one to get in with. Focus on your engagement. Now and again, put a couple dollars of TikTok advertising money behind your stuff for a couple months, and most likely you'll get into that first step. Now, I always like to say this, even though it's like people are like, no, that's so far down the line. But this is the important part, really, of the approval to get that on-site placement where all of the commission is for the influencer piece. You have to do a second approval process. So you got approved with your socials, but then you have to do a second part where you submit 3 videos and Amazon reviews them to make sure that they're the right quality, all of those things for that on-site placement. So just know that you have one more step coming before you can go full force. And I wouldn't submit more than 3 because then they will review more than 3. And they don't tell you, hey, it was this video that you got rejected for. They just tell you no. And then you have 5, 10, however many videos, and you're like, well, crap, now I have to start over. I have no idea. So just 3.
That's good to know. And thank you for explaining that to those who have no idea. This is completely new information to them. So that's super helpful. I think that the affiliate, it sounds like, or the associate is a little bit more time consuming, perhaps, because you have to kind of create maybe a website or some other place that people are going to, and then Amazon versus influencer, which is where your videos are right there with the product placed there. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. I mean, the hardest part of both of them is building the community, building the audience, right? Which you do need either way. But a lot of people, when they build a community, hate constantly pitching their community, right? So I was talking to a content creator the other day and she was like, I love my community. She has like almost 1 million followers. I mean, she's like big, right? But she's like, I don't do a lot of affiliate stuff because that's not what I want for this. And that's part of the reason she really likes the influencer side of Amazon. She's because I can monetize without having to constantly talk to the people that are joining me for this other journey. And that's one of the things that, like, the hardest part is the content creation and the community building. But if you can find a way like influencer to monetize without having to feel salesy to your audience, right? That's really the draw. But you're right, affiliate takes a lot more time because you're trying to convince people who aren't currently shopping to go shop. Influencer, people find you as they're shopping. You're just answering their questions and doing them a service when they're in that moment.
That's true. Very true. And, I have really launched myself in this journey of associate and
Yep.
influencer and kind of growing that. And so I know from my own experience what that has been like. And my goal has always been to share information that helps others,
Yes.
whether it's this podcast, whether it's sharing about products
Yep.
that I have found useful or helpful. That has always been my goal. And so I truly understand that position of, I don't want to be pitching products all the time. That is not strictly what I want to do. Yes, I want to help people. So how can I do that in a well-rounded way? And so this is great information that you're sharing with us. How can we keep our audience engaged in a way that feels meaningful and intentional and helpful and
Yeah.
knowledgeable, like useful information, right?
Exactly. I think so many people struggle with this because you genuinely want to help people. And also, we all need to make money, right? And so it's like you still want to figure out a way. So I won't speak on your behalf. People want to figure out a way to monetize what they're doing in a way that doesn't interfere with their main goal. And so it's like sometimes it feels conflicting. But yeah, that's part of one of the things that I like about influencer and one of the things I talk about quite a bit with content creators.
Yeah. Well, let's go back a little bit more into Fluencer Fruit and how this tool can serve the content creator in kind of eliminating that time-consuming process, and speak a little bit more specifically about how it works so that people understand, what's available to them.
Absolutely. So the Fluencer Fruit product is a Chrome extension, right?
Okay.
And so one of the things that makes people the most nervous in the associates and influencer space on Amazon is the terms of service around what you can and cannot connect to your account. So I will start by saying we are not connected to your account in any way. As with most Chrome extensions, we just basically sit on top of the page that you're looking at and pull information that you need forward. But there's not a conflict of we're not saving your data. We're not doing anything that would like in the future harm your account, just to throw that out there. Basically, what we're doing is like on a search result page, if you're looking at all of the bookshelves, right? And you're like, gosh, I wonder which one of these has upper carousels. Well, you can very quickly look on your page and there will be a big yellow square that says, oh, these have upper carousels. And some of them are not super competitive, 0 to 2 influencers, right? And so all of that information comes to you as you look at a search result page. And so the way that saves you time is obviously you're not having to click into each product listing and see which one meets your criteria. And before the Fluencer Fruit extension, that's what we were all doing. It was like clicking in and out and trying to remember which one had no influencers, and you're keeping a bajillion tabs open. So all of that goes away. We also now have a really cool, like when you click on the banana in your Chrome menu bar, right? It gives you a drop down, and we now have filters up there. So you can actually save your filters too. And this is just another way that's making it faster, where instead of scrolling your search results page, the drop down pulls all of that information into one screen. And with the filters, you can say, I only want to see products that have an upper carousel and no other influencers. And then from, let's say, 50 results on a search page, it can take you down to 5, right? And so then you're not sorting through 50 results. You're not clicking in and out of product listings. You're just looking at a list of 5. And then you can really start making decisions very quickly. The extension works on search pages, product listing pages, bestseller pages. It also has an integration with Jungle Scout for sales estimates. So if you are interested in sorting by number of sales, you can tell, okay, which one is the least competitive and sells the most very quickly. And then the Creator Hub piece of things, right? So one of the other things we built in was the ability to click on a button and it says, check all video placements. So I have users who have up to 9,000 videos on Amazon right now.
Wow.
If you can think about how much time they were spending to go through and audit anything in their account, I mean, they would just, it just takes forever. So when you click on check all video placements, it actually works through your entire account and will tell you which one has upper, lower, and you can filter no carousel. Which ones of mine are no carousel? You can also download all of your results, which actually Amazon doesn't give us that ability. So when you download using the extension, you can pull all of that and then sort. Oh, I just want to see all of mine that have no carousel. Link back to them, and then you can quickly start going through and making those adjustments. The other real benefit to this is that Creator Hub, we have 2 places where we have view data. One of them is Creator Hub, and that's the last 30 days, period. No date capability changing. And then we have another list that's not on the same page. That's the last 12 months. Also no date changing capabilities. So we don't have that back-end capability to go in and be like, oh, what did I do last month in views? The extension allows people to go in weekly, daily, whatever, run all of their results and pull them out into a CSV so you can start tracking your own data in a way that Amazon doesn't currently give us the opportunity to do. Those are the ways that like the extension really helps. There's one more that I'll call out, which is your order history. And this is, I built this a lot for me because when I got started, everybody's, oh, go through your house. Go through your house and do everything in your house. But listen, we all have 10 plus years at this point of Amazon buying history, right? So when you're trying to think of, well, I want to do the things in my house that cost me a lot of money and are going to make me 4% commission. So we actually added the functionality to your order history. So you can go into your order history and see which ones are your best opportunities, especially as you are just getting up and running, to be able to prioritize those like really quickly.
Wow, Liz, that's tremendous. Really so cool. The information that you can get from this, I mean, wow. The idea of having that access to the order history, because you're right, we all do have, I can look around and see probably 15 items just on my desk of things I bought from Amazon, or my ring light, the camera that I'm using, the microphone, the little tchotchkes on my desk, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily want to do something that's not going to really be the good placement, have fewer other influencers who have videos, maybe don't have the highest percent commission. So having that tool, wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, bravo. Good
Thank you.
stuff. This has been such fantastic information. I think so educational for the listeners who maybe just had no idea any of this was happening in the background of their shopping experience while they're on Amazon. So thank you for coming on and sharing this with us. And there's more questions that I want to ask you, but I absolutely have to ask you if there are books that you have found to be helpful for you, beneficial for you, maybe podcasts that you listen to. This is the question I ask all my guests, because I want whatever has been helpful for you that you want to share with the listeners and maybe give them an opportunity to check that out.
Absolutely. I think my favorite business book right now, it's actually two, and they're by the same author, Jocko Willink, and I can't remember his co-author. But the first one is called Extreme Ownership. And I love it because they talk through like extreme ownership in your business, right? And things that you should be owning. And though it's really fascinating because they're also ex-army Green Berets or some sort of elite, like super smart. And so they have like these really cool, like, this is the concept, this is the military example that we had, and then this is the business consulting that we've done around the same concept. So you end up walking away with a really deep knowledge of it because those are the sorts of stories that stick, right? But I find this part to be the really fascinating part. So they wrote Extreme Ownership, and then they wrote a follow-up book. And for the life of me, I can't think of the name of it right now. But if you find Extreme Ownership, you will find Jocko Willink and their follow-up. Because what they found was it resonated so much with people that people were owning stuff way past where they should. And it was like it became an unhealthy ownership. And so they wrote a follow-up book about basically you don't have to fall on your sword ownership. It needs to be reasonable within yours, but also you still need to be holding other people accountable. And it was such a fascinating, like, way for them. They had this wildly successful book to kind of like look at the results of it and be like, oh, grow and learn. And it's, guys, we hear you. Super glad you're internalizing all of this. Let's pull it back a little bit. And then wrote a whole other book about like how to do it with balance. And I love that about them, that they like didn't just push in and be like, yeah, keep going with this. They were like, actually, guys, let's re-examine for a minute and like take a look at this.
Oh, yeah. Great recommendation for sure. I'll put that in the show notes, and I will take a look also for the follow-up book and link that as well.
Perfect.
Because yeah, good stuff. Like, you don't want to die on the sword of this. Like, you're not responsible for absolutely everything.
Exactly.
You have to say, all right, like I take ownership for whatever maybe was my direct responsibility, but there are other people involved in things as well.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm not going to take that on too. So
yeah,
great stuff. And is there any others that you'd like to suggest or podcasts that you enjoy listening to?
Yeah. So recently I've been listening to Kevin King's podcast, and these are pretty Amazon specific, but since that's the space that I spend my life in, Kevin King's podcast and also Norm Farrar's podcast recently have been like the two, and they just started one together, which is pretty interesting because they're taking like these years of knowledge that they've put together in the Amazon space and like putting together these resources that are like very, think one of the things I love about the Amazon space is there's a way to make money everywhere, but it's always changing, right? And there's always new things. And they are always having guests on who are speaking to like today's challenges. What does it take to launch right now? I mean, 10 years ago on Amazon, we could do wildly different things to launch products. And now we can do like 1% of what we could do. So the other 99% of what you need to be doing is like this whole other system. And so listening to like their guests as well as their years of experience and how things are moving, those are the two that I'm in right now.
Oh, awesome. I'll include that information in the show notes as well. And so lastly, Liz, if people want to find out more about Fluencer Fruit and you and your journey and everything that you're working on, how would they be able to do that?
Absolutely. So I have a page for your listeners, and it's fluencerfruitconnect.com/pockets. And there they'll find everything from if you are a content creator and you are looking to get started, or if you're a seller and you want to work with content creators, all of those things are right there, easily clickable. And the one other thing that I'll kind of add there is I'm super accessible. Like, I love talking to people, answering questions. You'll be able to get my email on there, or if you're a seller looking to learn more, there's a link to my calendar. You can book 30 minutes with me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. That's fantastic. I'll make sure that's detailed in there as well. Liz, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and explain all of this to us in a way that's so easy to understand. Just sharing your knowledge and this information has been fabulous.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, we'll talk more soon. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explore fascinating topics together. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to join us next week for another amazing episode. Remember, your journey of learning and growth is a continuous adventure, and we're thrilled to be part of it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next week, stay curious and keep exploring those pockets of knowledge.